USCHO.com. This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from U.S. College Hockey Online at USCHO.com, featuring conversations with college hockey coaches and players and journalists who cover the sport.
Welcome to USCHO Spotlight for Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. This episode is brought to you by the 2020 NCAA Frozen Four, April 9th and 11th in Detroit, Michigan. For tickets, visit ncaa.com/Frozen4. Well, it's a return visit at midseason with Denver head coach David Carle.
David, great weekend last weekend. 2 wins over UMass. Getting to see a little bit of some of the highlights. It felt like a very heavy series for both teams. A lot of penalties called, a lot of power play time. Evaluate the series, if you will, for me.
Yeah, I felt like it was a really good series there. If they're not the best team in the East, they're certainly one of the best 2 or 3, and I thought it was a really good challenge for our kids and that they lived up to. And I thought it was really good hockey. Obviously, close hockey games. Theoretically, could have went either way. And I thought both teams pushed at different times, responded, and pushed back. And just overall, it was really good college hockey.
Your team fell behind in both games, 2-1 entering the third on Friday. Then you were down 2-0 early on Saturday. I know team coaches don't like to chase games, but the ability to bounce back and earn victories when you know that you had to come from behind, what does that do for a team? What does that do for a coach, for your psyche and knowing that your team is never out of a game?
Yeah, I think it builds confidence, certainly, and obviously, you'd like to be scoring the first goal of the game and not having to chase it, like you said. But proud of our guys' effort for sticking with it. And I think we felt like if we just continued to stick to our game plan, that chances would be presented to us, and they were. And ultimately, we were able to capitalize on them in different ways both nights. But we stuck with it, which was great to see.
I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple of your players. I'll start with a guy who's red hot. That's Cole Gutman. I seem to be getting video clips from your SID every week of him scoring some sort of a highlight reel goal. It's 6 goals in the last 5 games, a 5-game goal scoring streak. What do you like about the way he's playing right now?
Yeah, Cole's really attacking the game with and without the puck. I think for him, it does start without the puck. If he's pressuring pucks well, then it kind of feeds into the rest of his game. And I think that's been a staple of his line here recently with Gutman, Peterson, and Olszewski. And so they've found a way to have a lot of success. And, pucks are going in for him at a real high rate as well because he's attacking the net and he's a real dangerous offensive player when he's doing that.
In net, Magnus Krona, he's obviously had a great year of freshman campaign here, 10-4-2 with a 2.17 goals against average. What does he show you night in, night out?
Well, he's got a real calm demeanor about him, and he's obviously big. He's a pretty calm goaltender, and I think what's most impressive about him just how he's transitioning culturally into playing in the United States and North American game. Coming from Sweden, it's his first year overseas. He had a great fall quarter academically, is fitting in really well socially with his teammates, and I think just has really become acclimated into our culture real quick, and I think that's translated for him onto the ice, and he feels comfortable on the ice. And so it's a lot for any freshman. It's even more for a European, and we've had a few of them where their first year over is at Denver, and it's a challenge for him, and he's handling it arguably better than any of them thus far.
Where has you gone through that this is not the first player to come over from Europe right into the university? I see so many kids take the route through the USHL, after they've spent a year maybe there, and it's a little bit of a different setting. How difficult is it, and how much of a risk, I guess, as a coach are you taking when you're bringing a player in, knowing that they kind of have to emulate not just into a college campus, but into a totally different society?
Yeah, I think it's something that, the first guy we did it with was Borgstrom with our staff. And we learned a lot with Henrik. Obviously, he assimilated really well athletically right away for the most part, but academically and socially was a little bit more of a challenge for him. And I think we learned through that we got to support these kids a little bit more than maybe we supported Nicky in his first year. And then Jaakko Heikkinen came the next year and thought he transitioned much better, but he was also given a lot more support, I think, from our staff, and we were checking in on him lots more. And so I just think we've learned as a group here how to, I think, help the kids assimilate. And it's not just us as coaches, it's players too. And I think, for Jaakko having Borgstrom here, Borgstrom was a sophomore in Jaakko's freshman year, I think that helped him. And then when Larson comes, he has Heikkinen here. And now that Krona's here, he has Heikkinen and Peterson here. So I just think it starts to build and feed itself to a certain extent, but we all learn from it, and we got to make sure that we're supporting those guys because, like you said, I mean, it's hard for any freshman to adjust to college life. I don't care if he's from Denver, California, or anywhere else in the U.S., and for a Euro, it's even harder. And so I give our guys and our team a lot of credit for welcoming them in, and I think that helps the kids assimilate quickly.
We're talking with David Carle, head coach at Denver. Speaking in general, just about managing the pace and the hours and the week after week grind, what kind of things do you do with the players to help them learn to manage their time, manage injuries, fatigue, things like that? Yeah,
I think, the first thing is we're really fortunate and blessed here at the university to have a lot of resources that way. Our new locker room space has a lot of amenities that make it easy for them to get that extra treatment and take care of their bodies from a recovery perspective. We have a really good sport performance coach in Matt Shaw who manages a lot of sports science things for them. So we're getting objective, data from that. And so that helps us know when we can push and we got to pull back. And so it's a lot of things that go into it. And then as the year goes in our league, it does become a grind. And so you got to make sure you manage days and give maintenance days here and there. And that's our job as coaches, to use that data, listen to player feedback, and make sure that our guys are as fresh as they can be on Friday and Saturday nights.
A lot of teams are using technology in the game to monitor players and how they're doing within a game. Is that something that you also do?
Yes, we do.
How about getting a break at the semester? Was that something that was needed after only a couple of weekends off down that stretch from early October?
Yeah, I think it was good. I mean, our school academics calendar is a little bit unique in that we're on trimester, so we're off from Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving, until our first day of class was this Monday, yesterday. So we had time where it was just hockey. I think we had 4 games in that stretch, and then the kids got to go home for about 10, 11 days to be with their families over the holidays. And I think that time's really beneficial for our kids to be able to get out of town, get back with their families, and decompress a little bit, because it is college hockey. It can get into a high stress environment for the kids, and I think it's healthy for them to decompress, get away, and get ready for a second half run.
More with Denver head coach David Carle in a moment. First, this word from our sponsor, the 2020 NCAA Frozen Four, April 9th and 11th in Detroit, Michigan.
This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from US College Hockey Online.
Every time you show up, every time you make your presence heard, whether you clap your hands or stomp your feet, lead the chant or join the chorus. However you choose to be a fan, you make the game. The NCAA Frozen Four, April 9th and 11th at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. Visit ncaa.com/Frozen4 to get your tickets today.
Continuing now with Denver head coach David Carle. Other than kind of a little bit of a bumpy road in conference early to mid-November, it's been a pretty successful season so far. What is it about this season that you've been most happy with?
I think we're seeing different guys emerge. Last year's team was really young, and we needed more guys to step up this year, sophomores and juniors. And I think we're seeing that. And obviously we're really proud of the way we fought through the adversity and, there in late November and early December, and stuck with it and stayed together and connected. And I think it's healthy to go through adversity through the year, and you'd rather it come early than late. So I think that's probably what we're most proud of, is the guys' ability to just keep coming to the rink with a positive attitude, trying to get better and improve, and look in the mirror of areas where we got to get harder and play more to our identity. And I think the guys have done that. And, the 2 games against UMass, I'm not sure we win those if we're playing them in late November. So I give our guys credit. They've had a growth mentality through our adversity, and I think it's starting to pay off.
You mentioned trying to find your identity better. What kind of areas are you hoping still to get better?
I think it's staying consistent within our identity, and that's our puck pressure game. When that is good and all 20 guys in the lineup are playing the game on their toes and taking away time and space, then it feeds into the rest of our game. And so I think for us, it's just finding that level of consistency. It's been there the last 5 games for us. Needs to remain there for us to continue to have the results we want.
We're talking with David Carle, the head coach at Denver. David, I have coaches use this expression. They say it's the men's league now. It's all NCHC games for your team down the stretch here. We look at this from afar, this league from afar, and it seems like one of the, if not the most competitive conference. How tough is it to play so many consecutive league games down the stretch here? And how does the league not cannibalize itself with so many quality opponents?
Well, I think it's honestly, it's in the math. We have the best non-conference record again. And so we play each other. And if we lose to each other, it really doesn't hurt us that much. So from a statistics perspective and pairwise perspective, I think that's how it doesn't happen. Certainly when you get on the ice and the physicality of the games, the intensity is there. And I think that's a really healthy thing to have. We want to be playing the best teams, and we feel like those are in our conference, and it makes us better. We talk a lot, and as coaches in our league, that we got to push each other to make each other better. And I think the best part about the national tournament is, at least in the first round, is we don't have to play anyone in our own league. And if you were to look at our league's first round record, it's astronomically better than any other conference in the country. And that's not by accident. I think it's because we push each other and make each other better throughout the year.
You just mentioned the P word, pairwise. It is kind of that time where everybody is a little bit more aware of the pairwise. Your team currently sitting in 4th, and that's a pretty solid position usually in terms of getting into the NCAAs as we get into mid-January. When you have to approach your season, do you look at the pairwise? I mean, some coaches love to say that they kind of, know where they have a pulse on where things are every day. Other coaches will say, we just kind of want to go a game at a time, and we don't even worry about the pairwise. Where does it come in? Where's your approach to the pairwise?
Ultimately, I think you focus on your day-to-day process and your preparation week to week and day to day, and the results obviously will then take care of themselves, and the pairwise will take care of themselves. But I think for me, like I'm a numbers. I enjoy looking at numbers, so I do follow it, and so I'm aware of where we're at and who's in front of us and who's behind us and things like that. But I wouldn't say it's not like we're posting it to our players or really talking about it all that much. It's more just an awareness of it, and doesn't change anything with how we prepare day in and day out.
This weekend's opponent, you'll host St. Cloud State for 2 games. You haven't seen them yet live. You haven't had to play them yet. But I think anybody can look at their schedule and say they've been playing some of their best hockey of the season since the beginning of December. What have you seen of this team on tape, and what do you know will be some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, we're seeing the same things. Obviously played arguably their best game of the year against Mankato last weekend, and I think they're a young team, not dissimilar to what we were a year ago. And, the exciting part about young teams is there's a lot of room for growth. And usually they're a different team, come mid-season than early season and end of season to mid-season. So there's a lot of room for growth. And I think you see that they got a real good staff with Brett Larson and Nick Oliver and Gibby there. And so they do a good job. I think they teach the right way and their kids get better in that environment. So we're excited for two good hockey games. I think it's going to be a test for us. Again, back in our league play where we're not necessarily in a position. We're certainly not in a position to give up any games, but we're not in a position that we like. And we still are digging ourselves out of the hole that we created in late November there.
Well, it should be great hockey this weekend. Two usual powerhouses in the NCHC. I think that's kind of an overused word because so many of the schools, almost all eight of them on a year in, year out, very strong. David, we appreciate your time. Good luck the rest of the way. I'm sure we'll catch up with you one more time before the end of the season.
That sounds great. Thank you, guys. Thanks for what you do.
It's always a pleasure to talk with Coach Carle, and it was really interesting to hear him talk about adversity and growing from it. Sometimes you worry about a team that hasn't had any difficulty or any adversity along the way, and whether they're going to be ready for a setback, maybe in a 2 or 3 game league series or something like that along the way, or falling behind even in a game. And it sounds like that adversity was real helpful for Denver.
Yeah, I think they've probably had to build a little bit of their confidence back up. They start the season 8-0, and then they play 8 straight games against nationally ranked opponents and only get one single win out of them. And that can be very difficult. But I think as David said, you kind of have to ride the tide, and you got to just stay patient, trust your systems, believe in what you're doing. And wins have started to come. And, last weekend's series, that was big boy hockey. That's a UMass team that was playing well, going into a hostile building. Both nights, Denver falling behind, the ability to show that they could come back in each of those games. That's really important. I think that teams that can go through a few of those games where they prove that they can come back from a third period deficit or a 2-goal or a multi-goal deficit in a game. Those are really big confidence factors that you can use the bigger the game gets as you're getting into games for home ice in the playoffs, games that maybe could clinch the league championship or a playoff game or an NCAA tournament game. So I think that everything that this team has gone through in the last month and a half has probably been for the best for them.
And Coach Carle talked about the pairwise and how he's a numbers guy and likes to look at that. Denver has helped itself tremendously in the pairwise and the NCHC in general with 2 big series sweeps. One, the UMass series last weekend, but early in the season, a sweep against a Boston College team that has since gone on to win 10 straight.
Yeah, right. I mean, that kind of stands out. Listen, as he said, if they had played UMass at a certain time, back in November, they probably don't win those games. But the same thing if they played Boston College in that time, or played it when BC's kind of at its hottest as they are right now, it might have been a little bit different. But though, you can't take those 4 wins away from the Pioneers. That really did boost their pairwise, and they're right there. I mean, you don't see I don't like to ever guarantee things, but when you're at mid-January almost and you're the 4th team in the pairwise, you'll likely have a pretty good shot at getting into the NCAA tournament. And if you play well from here on out, that number 1 seed seems like it'd be a lock too.
David Carle's been mentored by 2 great coaches at Denver in George Gwozdecki and Jim Montgomery, and he hasn't skipped a beat now in his 2nd season. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger. We'll catch you next time on USCHO Spotlight.
This has been the USCHO Spotlight, a production of US College Hockey Online. Visit uscho.com/podcasts to listen or subscribe.